What you are about to see is a fight between Aideron Robotics and an assortment of Caldari militia corporations. The fight took place in Eneluri, inside of a plex, and the objective of the fleet was to capture that plex. We had managed to recall all of our friendly forces to the plex to begin the fight. The numbers were roughly equal, with the advantage in numbers going to the Caldari militia, and the advantage in ship size going to the Galente militia side. This fight could have gone either way. However, through excellent piloting, good target calling, and a number of other factors, the fleet was able to prevail in a fight that could have gone either way. We will dissect this fight call by call, and indicate to the viewer how this fight was won, and tactics and strategies that can be reused in the future.
Ignore the Punishers. Inquisitor, Irina Kavajenko is primary.
The initial primary call of your fleet is of paramount importance. In this case, the primary was selected to be the enemy logistics ships. The reason for this call is to reduce the ability of your opponent to handle incoming damage. And in this scenario, it was because we had a limited number of damaged ships to their larger number of damaged ships, and the balance had to be equaled out to be able to defend against their advantage in damage.
Irina Kvajenko is primary.
Broadcast.
Okay, Frederick Energa is secondary. Overheat. Irina's primary.
Calling for overheat early on in a fight is essential to the success of a combat situation. In circumstances where your opponent possesses superior logistics or superior damage, applying heat early on in a fight can lead to the enemy not being able to handle your damage output when you have enough damage to overwhelm their logistics or break through tanks. In addition, you will want to get through the enemy logistics ships as fast as possible, as while you're primarying their logistics, they are either trying to destroy your logistics or your damaged ships, and you need to power through these ships as fast as you can so that you can get to the enemy DPS, which is what you really need to clear off the field.
Frederick is secondary.
Spread your spams and newts on the Punishers. Get them out of the game.
This is an example of an excellent combat pilot. He knows when to speak up and about what. He knows that we have assets that we aren't utilizing yet in the fight, and he has a suggestion about how we can deploy them effectively against our adversary. Every fleet commander should encourage input from his pilots, such as this. However, fleet commanders should not be afraid to countermand those orders. Even though they are good suggestions, they may not be the best suggestion or take into account all of the variables of the battlefield. In this circumstance, I will countermand his order and instead issue an order to utilize the neutralizers on a more effective target.
Actually, guys, put newts on Frederick, and then Jason is primary. Jason Aiderona is primary.
Frederick is flying the other logistics ship for the Caldari militia. The reason why we want to neutralize his ship instead of applying damage to it is to avoid having to go through the process of taking down all of that effective hit points in order to get on to dealing with more pressing targets. By neutralizing him, we can eliminate a ship from the fight without actually having to work our way through its hit points and waste valuable time, which we can now instead spend on applying to damaged ships, reducing the incoming damage, and protecting our logistics as well as our other damaged ships.
Ignore Frederick. Newts to Frederick. Weapons on Jason Aiderona. All newts on Frederick.
Repetition is essential to a good fleet commander. You'll need to repeat your commands multiple times before they can be understood and acted upon by your pilots. Pilots are busy even in your fights. That means that if they don't hear a command the first time, it may not be because they're not paying attention. It may be because they're multitasking to do some other task to orient their ship better in combat or to apply more damage to the opponents that you called previously. In this circumstance, I'm reinforcing the call to apply neutralizers to the opponent because this is a complex order, and also calling damage on the target to make sure that they also apply their DPS to the primary target.
Okay, now we're going to take Blitzen. Blitzen, Odorami is primary. Blitzen, Odorami is primary.
The order in which you call for primaries is important. In this case, I have called primary several ships that are high damage, that are traditionally shield tanked, which is the opposite tank of this fleet, and which have notoriously low hit points in those configurations. More importantly, Punishers have notoriously high hit points in armor configuration and high resistances, which make them difficult nuts to crack, even with one neutralized Logi on the field. The prevailing wisdom is to call your targets in descending order of damage to tank ratio. That is, if a ship has high damage and low tank, it is primary first, and if a ship has low damage but high tank, it is primary last.
James Massey is going to be next. Spread your points.
Point on Saren.
Maiden.
Did we even lose
Any
anything?
point on Maiden? Okay, I got a scram on him. Siren.
At this point, the fight is now effectively over. Usually you want to call to spread points a little bit before the fight is completely lost, because you'll fail to catch most of the enemy's ships unless you do. In this circumstance, we did not have sufficient tackle to hold down most of their fleet from fleeing, and I called for the spreading points too late in the battle to make a big difference. While this decision did not affect this particular fight, it did affect a subsequent fight where the enemy reshifted to essentially the same fleet doctrine and came at us again, and were able to utilize the same Punishers that managed to escape from this fight. Small gang fights are extremely fast-paced, and sometimes can be difficult to follow. I hope that by pausing like this, and allowing us moments to dissect this fight, blow by blow, that newer FCs can learn how to engage the Caldari militia pilots in small gang, frigate, and destroyer combat. This entire fight is over in just a little less than 2 minutes. That kind of fast-paced fleet commanding takes instinct and experience, as well as an understanding of the EVE combat mechanics. For your entertainment, I will now replay the entire fight at normal speed with no interruptions and excellent music.
Ignore the Punishers. Inquisitor. Irina Kavajenko is primary.
On a limb and reach out along. Would you like to keep your hands clean? Stayed out of others' Tensions are high on a morning that looked just like this.